father.
Good morning, my lovely daughter. How are you today?
I'm doing all right. It's nice to be back for another episode of the Father-Daughter Memory Cafe podcast. Not sure which episode number this is anymore, but just generally a good time.
Yeah, it is strange times. Um,
Very much
with the
so.
Queen passing away.
Yeah.
You know, we do miss her, and we acknowledge the wonderful example she set for a lot of people and for all of us to try and emulate. Because she kept herself with dignity, poise, humility, and devotion to work and her duties. So those are attributes that all of us can adhere to and try and
Cheers.
emulate. Yes. Well, cheers to long live the king.
He's the king.
Long live the king.
Strange to say. Yeah, I mean, I don't really want to get too into it, but if you want to talk about that at the start of this, I'm happy to chat with you for that.
It has been a topic on every communication network or device that's been going on. And though it's not overwhelming, it's not something that I really want to discuss much about. But it did bring back a sense of reflection for me in terms of when you see her life in pictures, going back from when till now. And it's always good to go back to the early days. So my thought today was to just tell you stories about my childhood when I was young. And I'm drinking some coffee from a big mug.
Yeah. What kind of coffee are you drinking today?
I'm still with that Tesco's brand Italian blend. Same old, same old. I'm a man of constants,
I would tell me about the Sports Direct mug.
The Sports Direct mug is one that does not always have to be full. Not because it's big. It serves purposes as the overflow for the last coffee from the night before, so that they can make a fresh brew for mommy in the morning. It is one that if you're going to be outside all day working and you don't mind like a cold coffee in the end of it, you fold that and step outside, you don't need to run back in for another cup. And yeah, it does the job, and it's the biggest mug in the house. So sometimes I need to be a king size mug.
Nice. Well, I'm drinking from Jamaica mug. I'm on brand. This is a gift from Noel, my partner's mom, Gloria. She's also a Jamaican woman, so we really bonded over that. So she got me a Jamaica mug. And filled inside of it is a McDonald's coffee. So we're on our brand placement today.
Good. Well, if it works for you and it comes by Deliveroo, then all is good.
How many companies can we name today? Let's drop in some more.
Drop a few names before the day is out.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't normally I call a latte, and I don't normally drink lattes, but because I don't know how to make them, when I'm ordering one, I'm always like, oh, I don't want to just order a plain black coffee because I can make that at home. I'm always like, let's see what they do. It's a bit milky for me.
Okay.
I think that's what a latte is, so I should just expecting that.
It's in the name, my darling. It's in the name.
Yep, it is. And I do speak French, so you think I would know that?
Oh, I thought it was Spanish, but that's all right.
Is milk in Spanish something like that? No, not. This is not the time to recall your Spanish.
No.
This is where we need Catherine.
Lache.
Yeah, that's where we need Catherine. We should say shout out to her because it's actually we're recording on her birthday. Happy birthday,
that's
Catherine.
Right. Happy birthday, Catherine. I sent her a rehashed post from Facebook. Name dropping again. which which captured quite a few people who have been around on her birthdays, and it was just a pull up of they're so good, they got everything together.
Mhm.
I didn't have to do a thing. I said, wow, these guys know my stuff. Yeah.
Yep.
As a percent, I sent it to her. So yeah, that is modern technology.
Well,
Right. Since we last spoke, we went to the Commonwealth Games.
we did. We tried to record two versions of this podcast to technical errors.
Right. And we're skipping the barbecue one at the moment until we get um that jinx out the way.
Yeah,
Right? So today I would like to tell you stories about my early childhood.
I'd love to hear them.
Okay, good. I came to Jamaica when I was 9 months old. I came on a banana boat from England along with my mother, father, two sisters. Never spoke in England, so what you hear now is my accent that I learned when I was in Jamaica. We came to Jamaica because Daddy was recruited at the University Hospital during the casualty department, and there was a house for the resident in charge of casualty on the university campus, which was located Mona campus in Kingston. And walking distance, Daddy walked to work and walked back in his white coat, smoking Rothman cigarettes and being dapper.
Grandpa
He
smoked.
was a, he smoked heavily.
I did not know
He
that.
smoked heavily.
Mm.
Always had Rothmans. That was his brand. Yeah. Now, mommy, when she came over from England, she's Irish, so um, her hands were full raising three children. And I, being the youngest, was um, I wouldn't say I was spoiled, but I was I was a lap baby. I loved sitting in her lap. Anywhere she went, I just climbed into it like a good dog. Put her arms around me, and I was comfortable there. She could chat to her friends or do whatever. As long as the lap was mine, I was okay. But she, in her efforts to maintain her independence and her, her hardworking Irish upbringing, she decided to grow roses. And she grew rose plants in beds around the house. The house had about half an acre, quarter to half an acre of land around the house. And she made these beds and planted roses, which she quite industriously cut and put in big basins of water. And people who came to hospital and needed flowers to carry to patients would come and buy her roses. She she had quite a few rose plants, a couple of thousand rose plants. And she picked so many roses that when she showed you her hand, the prickles were still in there. And she wouldn't take them out. They just didn't bother unless she got into a joint. And then they'd swell and she'd take them out. But she just picked them, no gloves, just had her picked her roses and cut them. And she had her roses going. And she had to wrap them in paper. So she taught us how to wrap roses and how to trim the stem at the bottom. And I was very young at the time. Quite, I was very young. We had Daddy who, in another three of us, planted a tree each, a pine tree in the garden. I think two of them were cypress pines, and well, three probably were. But each of us knew what plant was ours, and we'd have to water our tree. And they grew to be massive. I mean, Root and Sandra's were side by side. Mine was at the back of the garden somewhere. and they had mango trees, which lovely Julie mangoes, and a massive Bombay tree. Oh, it was tall around the back. I mentioned the Bombay tree because when I give trouble and mommy wanted to beat me, I climb the tree and she can't climb the tree. So I'd stay up there for what seemed like hours. I don't know how long it was until she agreed not to beat me. Then I'd come back down. I did fall out of that tree one day.
I imagine you would at some point in the scramble for it.
And yeah, it was memorable. There was a yeah, I hurt myself slightly, nothing broken, but I will always remember that fall, you know. But that is trees were his jewelry trees were his pride and joy. And he wasn't he liked his roses, but he was more into hibiscuses.
Mm.
And he did cross pollination with hibiscuses to get certain breeds and colors that he wanted. And he was known for it, for his ability to produce flowers that went to the National Flower Show and won awards. I remember now he's a doctor, so he has 3 young children, and Sandra and myself would always test the boundaries. And we did get a bit of um, strapping every now and then. And in 2 particular occasions, one, we figured since daddy's a doctor, that he can fix anything. So we climbed over the gate on the main road and laid on in the road because we figured no cars would run over us, and if one did, daddy could fix us back.
Nope.
Yep. So the taxi man, when he stopped outside and started shouting that he was in the garden, so I was climbing back over the gate. Taxi man asked if those were his children that were lying in the road, and therefore we were told to go in the room, take off our clothes, and we got a strap in each, never to climb in the road again. Yeah, that was a memorable occasion. The second one was slightly less justified, but in chasing each other around the garden, we found that to make the corner around the Julia mango tree, you need to hold on to the branches to get the reduce the centrifugal force, and it removed the blossoms from his precious Julia mango tree and ran into him. And that was the second time I remember. He was always present. He didn't go away on holidays and leave us or anything. He came home from work for lunch and he went back to casualty department and he came back in the evenings and he taught us how to ride bicycles. I had a birthday, and because of where we lived, we had a lot of land space, and he got the gardener, Willie, to make some goalposts in the open land outside our fence. And for a birthday party, we had a football match, and had enough people there to make a nice little football team and play games. There are pictures of that birthday, and there, when I look at it, I can see where I am now in how my outlook on things were at the time. I was barefooted. I was very comfortable in an old shirt and had my plastic gun on my waist. I thought I was John Wayne. Sometimes I still think I'm John Wayne, but anyhow, I think that's because I walk cramping all the time out. But anyhow,
With the cowboy hat too.
I love my hats. I love my hats. Yeah, so uh, growing up there, mommy had a Morris Oxford. And I remember one day she was going out. I didn't want her to leave. I thought I could hold on to the car and keep her from leaving. And she dragged me down the driveway. Um, that was a lesson learned. So the school for me as a little boy, we went to Mrs. Robinson's basic school. And Mrs. Robinson was a lady who played the piano, and everybody went to Mrs. Robinson first, to get away from, to get used to school. And she played the piano, so she always had music in her schoolroom. And there weren't many children. I'd imagine probably about 30 at the most. And I stole my first kiss.
Not with the teacher, right?
No, with Marie Cassidy. During prayers one morning, I snuck up beside her and kissed her when her eyes were closed. But yeah.
That's not okay. There's no consent there.
Eh?
There's no consent in that story.
There was none. There was none. I apologized to her. I became very good friends with her brother. And we, for years, I've kept in touch with her as well. I know her. She's a beautiful woman. Mrs. Robinson, she died quite suddenly. And we were just transferred from there straight to Mona Prep School. So that was the start of my primary school. I was young at the time. I was a little baby. Yes, a baby. I was like probably 6 or 7. And
But you had your first kiss before you were 6?
About 6 or 7. Yeah, that's them consent wasn't tough. And I thought,
You talk about childhood kids. Sorry, I thought you were.
Oh, this is 6 or 7 years old. I was a player. What can I say? So mommy used to bake cinnamon rolls and shortbread for the teachers. And being of European style baking is totally different from Jamaican baking. And they're always a novelty and a hit with the teachers. So I had Ruth and Sandra ahead of me at school, and we're all a year apart. So, we were all there together at one stage. And they were wonderful students and paved the way for me to go through school, which was good. The house at university, because of the plants and so forth that we had in the yard, that was an investment for mommy. I can remember once when there was a storm called Flora, which was during hurricane season. It didn't mature to be a hurricane, but it came with some very heavy rains, and mommy wanted to protect her plants, so we all had to move them inside the garage and onto the veranda and try to keep them out of the wind and the rain, which was a task. And there was a bit of disappointment when the hurricane itself didn't mature, because we wanted to see all the, the powerful winds and things they were talking about. But there was quite a bit of rain, and Daddy had pictures of us playing in the rain, in the floodwaters afterwards, which were great.
Yeah, there's something strange because I remember that about like hurricane season in Jamaica too. Is that like as a child you sort of almost want it to turn into a hurricane because you want to see it. You're like curious, but like obviously you don't want it to turn into a hurricane. It's not. It would be bad if that happened. But there's just a lot of excitement about preparing for the hurricanes, and it's a really strange thing. I haven't really thought about it in a while, but just remembering that like, oh, a hurricane might hit, like everybody get ready for it, and then oh no, it's passed.
Yeah, tracking it from it leaves the African coast, and it's almost like a horse race. It'll be here by Wednesday. If it continues on the same path, it's moving
where
a
is
bit
the eye
north.
going to form? Which island is it going to hit? Is it going to swerve last minute?
Is it slowing down? Is it getting stronger? Is it petering out? And it was always a hype, And I was there for 10 years, and it took me about 30 years to see my first one, which was Gilbert. And like 28 years, I think it was when it came. And at that time we had satellite Earth stations, not little dish that Sky puts on the side. That puts on the side of the house. right? We're talking parabola dishes, I think that's what they're called. And you had um, two shelves of electronic equipment, which is um, satellite locator and um, a, a rotor motor to make a dish revolve into a position. You know, the dead giveaway was Playboy channel was vertical. So if you passed a man's house and you saw a dish pointing straight up in the air, you knew he had the Playboy channel. Eh?
Another
But everything
brand.
else was another brand name. Yeah. But everything was it was uh, grid reference to latitude and longitude, and therefore you knew what, or the computer knew where to set your dish to get the satellite, which is what, and you paid a subscription. Some subscription was paid in America to somebody who they expected to be in America, but is really in Jamaica, and it was that kind of silliness. But I saw on one of those dishes Hurricane Gilbert, the picture of it before it came to Jamaica. And when I saw it, I said, "There's no way that could miss." I knew it was coming, and yeah, it came. I don't want to say a second one. The strength of that is awesome. It is something which shows you the power of the universe. And it was, yeah, it was an up one off for me, and I don't need to say a second. That's what I'm saying. With flora and the trees and planting and saving women's flowers, that all helped her generate her income, which she was very proud to tell us. That's how she paid for us all to get back to England on a plane to go and see my cousins, and her mother in Ireland. Went to Ireland to go and see her mother. Remember walking up the road, going to look for her. And grandma, she was in the cow shed milking cows. So yeah, there was no ears or flair about her. It's just she got on what she did. Uncle John Joe, he had his tractors, and uh, three of us went out in the field, he and his dog. His dog would run around the field to show him where the irrigation ditches were on the edge of the field. And he'd follow the dog on the first lap and cut the first row around the field and then cut the rest. Like, he let us steer the tractor and drive the tractor, which was, for me, was everything. And we learned how to get back to the farmhouse, walking through the fields and what thistles were. We're coming through a drain once, and it's kind of steep. So I slide down and I'm trying to go up the other side, and I fall and I press down the thistles. And Ruth and Sandra walk over me so they wouldn't get stuck by thistles, and walked up the other side. And that's how my sisters treated their younger brother. But it's all love, you know.
Very
So
familiar sibling dynamics, but
yeah, but who's complaining? Yeah, it was good. We had a lovely childhood. Three of us played together. Um, Sandra tried to get me to play with dolls, and Ruth was willing to play cowboys with me. So it was, mix up and match up, but it was all right. Good. We had a dog. The first dog we had was we had we, we didn't have a dog. The doctor's quarters at the top of the road was run by a lady, Mrs. Senarine. And Mrs. Senarine was also the person who had a TV, a black and white TV at the doctor's quarters. TV didn't sign on to 6 o'clock in the evening, and it signed off by 8:39. Yeah. And if we wanted to see what was on TV, we'd have to go up there to watch it. And we had to have our best behavior. She was like the matron for the doctor's quarters. And if mommy and daddy were going out and wanted uh, uh, a babysitter, we'd all be sent to Mrs. Senorine's house for the night to stay. And the beauty about it was the mountain peak coffee in the morning. She gave us coffee. Nobody else gave us coffee, but she would have coffee for us in the morning. It's It's not unusual
Do
for
it
children.
again.
Yeah, it's another brand name. It's still available, but we abused our privilege once when we thought we were smart. We went in the toilets at the doctor's quarters and decided to write on the walls using a fingernail to scrape the paint. It was flaking, and silly enough, we wrote our own names on it. So we got outed quickly. And that was a lesson in learned in graffiti. If you're doing graffiti, don't put your name on it. Don't go tagging things with your name, you know. But anyway, this residence had a dog. We used to call her mother dog because she just bred. She just had puppies, you know. So one day she had some puppies, and we decided we wanted a dog, so we took two puppies and walked down to our house, just walking distance. Yeah? So it's not on main road; it's just down like a dirt track to the house. And put the puppies in the garage and put some newspaper down and box them in. And we said, yeah, we have two dogs. Well, the mother dog came the night and took the two puppies back. So went up next time. That dog bit me on my bottom once. I think we went to control her puppies once, and she came chasing us, and I ran, and she nipped me on my bottom. Oh,
You're stealing her babies.
I figured that was what she was thinking, but it wasn't a vicious bite. It was just a nip to say, get out of here. So next time I decided to steal the puppies, I was inventive and distracted her enough to get two puppies again and ran home with them and locked them in the bathroom in the bottom part of the house. Right? And they cried all night and they shut up the newspaper, and mommy was kind enough to help us look after them. And we ended up with a dog. Right? So this dog named Kimmy was lovely. It was my best friend at the time, you know. So little boys should always have a dog. But then that dog was protective and fun and played and everything. And I remember adventures. There was an event, they were building more flats for the doctors' quarters, right? And we go over there and talk to the builders. And the builders told me, I see them smoking. I say, hey, what's that? They say, a cigarette. I say, what's it made of? And they say, it just grows like the grass. So I actually ended up taking Pangola grass and rolling it in brown paper and lighting it and think I was smoking. That thing really. I mean, I wouldn't think of what it tasted like now that I'm a sensible person. But at the time I thought that is what smoking was. I had affinity for fire. Daddy had the nicest greenhouse. I got the box of matches and playing with the grass because I wanted to light the grass afire. The grass caught fire, the greenhouse caught fire, burnt down the greenhouse, the fire engine had to come. When the fire engine came and he said, who did it? I pointed to the innocent man next door and said, he did it. And only when mommy heard the matches rattling in my pocket, the box of matches, that I had to own up to it being me. But yeah, that greenhouse, no, he had special trays being made to put the flowers in, you know. So we got bamboo and cut them in half and make big pots. That exactly pots, it's square things, you know. And I thought it looked like it could be a go-kart. So I jumped into one of them once and the bamboo split my knee open. Oh, it was bad. When I said bad, yeah, it was bleeding. So Willie, the gardener, put me in the wheelbarrow and wheeled me up to the hospital into casualty, where nurse recognized who I was coming in the wheelbarrow, got me into they got me into the operating room and bandaged up my knee, and then oh they stitched it. I had 3 stitches in my knee, which were like my stripes. I was now an old soldier. But the beauty about it was everybody in there was either aunt somebody or uncle somebody who were looking after me. So that was great. Um, I had my cousins gave me a push cart in the shape of a truck from a Christmas present. That is cousin Fraser and Tuffy. I don't know what Tuffy's real name is, trust me. But they were the bigger cousins, and they would be, when you see them, all they want to do is teach you how to box and fight, you know. But there are some good boys, you know. And that's the Smith side of the family. That's Grandma Minot's family. And yeah, they tend to be that kind of, they're great people, but they can be a bit rough and a bit wild. But yeah, they gave me this truck, and I just drive it around. I drove it till the wheels fell off, you know. But that was simple toys, which I found great entertainment in, and it just the days passed. And I put stuff in the truck just to push it around the yard, you know.
It's nice to like hear about some of the things because we've had a couple of these chats now, and I think the car story hasn't gone out, but like thinking about the trucks and your toy truck and then all of the stories you've had with cars, when thinking about the dogs. I know you don't you're not certain about how much you want to talk about dogs, but I know like from like our growing up with you how important the animals are. So to hear about those early stories. I mean, the image of of you being wheelbarrowed into a hospital is kind of amusing. Um,
Yeah,
but I'm definitely getting the sense that you were a kind of a wild child, or could be described as that, with just the series of injuries and the lying in the middle of the road.
or that was because we believed our father was the best, you know,
Superhuman, magical.
superhuman. He could fix anything, you know. And I wasn't really wild, but I wasn't brought up on the veranda, as they would say. You know, I
Yeah.
was allowed to, you know, there, daddy, he saw the beauty of the wildflowers in the hills, and not being able to get to them, he'd send me up the hill to get them. He said, "Oh, I see that flower way up the top there, beside the pink one. Can you get that plant for me?" And I'd scamper up the mountainside, you know, really hugging that dirt and get it for him, you know. And I enjoyed that. And I'm sure he appreciated the effort because on weekends, that's what he would do. He and his friends would go into the hills and take photographs, or go hunt flowers, you know, and just have a good time. And yeah, it was, the adventures were not, um, they weren't wild and dangerous, but they were without
Testing the
boundaries,
boundaries.
you know. Yeah, you know what is acceptable behavior, and that's what you did. And you know what, I mean, after getting slapped for being on the road, you don't play with cars or put yourself in danger,
But
you know.
after being bit by the dog, you just found another way to get the puppies.
Yeah, but I think being genius. I wanted a dog. I wanted puppies, and she was just having puppies. So always having puppies. I
Yeah.
heard that her name was Mother Dog. And I mean, if you ask Ruth and Sandra, they'll tell you she was a brown dog with a tan tail and a tan mouth. She was a slut. A lovely slut, I suppose. I think eventually we got on well with her, and I think as we got older, we learned how to befriend her and
Hmm.
not be afraid of her. But she slept in the car park where the cars were, under a little shed. And I'm sure she was ultimate security for them. Then nobody would come there at night and trouble a car. You know? So that house was full of memories.
Hmm.
It had um a bougainvillea hedge that grew into a bench because
Mhm.
it grew horizontal. And even though they normally have prickles on it, we're on it so often that there were no more prickles left on it. So we could ride it like you sit on it until it's sway, but it
Yeah.
had a canopy to keep you out the sun, and that's a little play area for us. You know,
Really nice. I
the,
mean, these stories are really these are really beautiful, and I can imagine that you've got a lot more of them. So do we think that this episode would be a good two-parter? So this is
no, because this one is one that it's you know I'm going to wrap this up now by saying that Daddy brought us from England, put us in this house. We grew up there, and they moved from there to Whitcomb Crescent. When he left casualty and went to social and preventive medicine, which coincided with the time of me going to Monroe at high school as well. So that transition was nice, in the house and school at the same time. And I was at boarding school, so Whitcomb Crescent was a novelty. When I came home, I'd still meet new friends and so on. And I made a lot of friends when I was young. I mean, I wrote in my little notes, I have a list of quite a few names, and a couple of them have been my friends, like Jeremy Knight, throughout life. I saw in my notes, which I wrote a couple of years ago, Francois St. Just, who was also a boy from Mono Prep as well with me. And his father was a lecturer at university as well. He was in mass communications, and he taught Sandra. And just recognizing Francois passing last week as well. It's um, it's a lot of friendships that were made there and during that period. And what was I said to Sandra, when Grandpa was sick and dying, and he was in ICU at university, and he died. We stepped outside the building, outside the door of the ICU, standing on this landing, and we could look and see the house. And I said to Sandra, look at life goes full circle. He brought us from England to that house and come all the way around, and he's died here, and we standing here looking at the same house where it all started. And then
beautiful.
the Domino's pizza man asked the excuse while he goes inside and delivered pizzas for the nurses who are working. And that also made him know that life goes on. They need food, he needs a delivery man, just like how you had your delivery this morning. It's just another day in paradise, my darling.
Very
It was
neat.
lovely talking to you. I'm going to sign off on you today instead of you signing off on me.
All right.
I love
Lovely.
you.